Dear Ilham Haydarovich, good afternoon. I would like to greet you and thank you for the fact that we are in Konkendi today. Although the forum is called the Shusha Forum, last time I was in this city was 40 years ago. And probably my colleagues, my fellow countrymen, will understand my state. You know, during the previous forum you accurately determined, as I had just returned from Milwaukee, who would occupy the White House on January 20th. You were accurate then, and so it happened. You even suggested that Azerbaijan's relations with the United States with this administration would be better. One can judge this at least by President Trump's greeting on the occasion of the country's Independence Day. My question is a little broader. Today, in my opinion, Azerbaijan is pursuing a completely unique foreign policy. And I don't even know what other state it can be compared with. In all international azimuths, I will start with Russia, despite all the flashes, as I call them, of recent times, which have hardly caused a positive response from the general public either in Russia or in Azerbaijan. The foundations of the agreement that you signed in Moscow on February 22, 2022, are not subject to any doubt. This is obvious. I have spoken about the United States. Your relations with Turkey are based on the Shusha Declaration. The President of Iran was in this room just a few days ago. European commissioners do not go a week without coming here. I could list them all, including your visit to China, your role in the non-aligned movement, and so on. There is some phenomenon in this that not everyone in the world understands, and it seems to me, not everyone in the world appreciates. In this regard, I have a simple question. I understand that asking you how you manage to do this is like asking a virtuoso violinist how he plays the violin. He will likely say, I just take the violin, the bow and play. But your policy is based on certain, it seems to me, very clear and verified political principles that allow you to conduct this multi-vector policy. Could you name 5 to 7 basic political principles of President Aliyev, thanks to which you can conduct such a successful foreign policy? Thank you.
Thank you. I once said at a closed-door meeting with my European colleagues back after 2020, but before 2023, when the situation was being discussed, and when there were still separatists here in Konkendi, there was such a long conversation. I once said that I had said this publicly, and my counterpart responded, well, so what? And I said that I never lie to my people. This is what I said. And this is actually true. But as a prelude to answering your question, I try never to lie to my international colleagues either, if possible, of course. And I think that we need to be objective and honest, returning to the fact that we should not lie. I think that this is probably one of the main principles. To tell the truth, first of all, to our people. And since we live in the era of the internet and social networks, everything you say here instantly resonates throughout the world. I think the many years of being in the position of president, along with the invaluable experience that I have acquired, which would have been impossible to acquire in any other way. Also, the fact that such trusting relationships have been built. When you can trust someone, trust does not mean agreeing. Trust does not mean being dissatisfied with something to some extent, or having a different agenda. Trust means simply believing that if a person has said something, this is what will be the case. I think this is one of the factors that allowed us the opportunity to gain international authority. The second factor, I think, is no less important always, as you rightly noted, to adhere to principles, in this case, the universal principles of international law. We have always adhered to them in any situation, regardless of any political or any other preferences. As a country that suffered from separatism and occupation itself, we simply could not formulate our approach to similar situations anywhere in the world in a different way. Therefore, commitment to international law and the UN Charter is also a fundamental factor, which, I think, enabled Azerbaijan to take a worthy place in the international arena. I think that the geography of Azerbaijan, I have already spoken about this, is, of course, a thing that may be dangerous to some extent, and may be very useful, depending on whose hands it is in, just like medicine. Therefore, geography is used as a means of protection from risks. As for Azerbaijan, there are no internal sources of risk in our country. All potential risks can be generated outside our borders. Therefore, it was also important to protect ourselves from surprises, from any risks not related to our activities, and geography played an important role in this case. And also the fact that Azerbaijan is one of a handful of countries that is a member of both European and Muslim organizations, and actively participates in summit formats through the European Union, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, ECO, and many others. Another important factor emphasizing the authority of Azerbaijan is the fact that we became the first and only country to become a new member of the D8 organization. The organization, which was once created on the initiative of Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, and now brings together the 8 largest countries of the Muslim world, both in terms of population and potential, had never accepted new members since its creation many decades ago. Azerbaijan was the only one to be accepted unanimously. I think that your question can be answered endlessly, so I think I will stop here. And of course, it is important for everyone. When you take into account your interests, you must also look at the interests of your neighbor. That is, the protection of national interests is a fundamental factor in Azerbaijan's foreign policy. But in isolation from the regional and global context, this factor cannot be greatly abused. You must always look at the situation. Try to look at the situation through the lens of your neighbor. And then a lot becomes clear. Then a lot that could lead to some kind of misunderstanding is regulated quite effectively. Therefore, I am grateful to you for such a question. By the way, I would like to make a small clarification. I did not predict Trump's victory. I simply said that it would be preferable for the Azerbaijani people, given that he, like us, shares fundamental values, including family values. He is the only US president who has not started wars. And in his short time in office, it is clear that he is a man who ends wars. And we are also very grateful to him personally for his desire to help Azerbaijan and Armenia to come to an agreement in the end. Despite the fact that he is busy with more global issues of international security, he also keeps the situation in the South Caucasus in his field of view. We in Azerbaijan, of course, are glad that he won, for many reasons. And of course, we wish him to see the matter through to the end, especially with regard to the Washington swamp, to drain it completely.
Да.